Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, there was a little village called Tranquil Hollow. This village was unlike any other, for it was a place where time seemed to slow down, where the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and where the gentle hum of nature created a soothing melody that lulled everyone to sleep each night. In Tranquil Hollow, there lived a kind and gentle soul named Elara. Elara was known throughout the village for her warm smile and her ability to bring comfort to anyone who crossed her path. She lived in a quaint cottage at the edge of the village, surrounded by a garden filled with the most vibrant and fragrant flowers you could ever imagine. Elara spent her days tending to her garden, listening to the birds sing their morning songs, and sharing stories with the children of the village. One evening, as the sun began to set and the sky was painted with hues of pink and gold, Elara decided to take a walk through the forest that bordered her home. The forest was a magical place where ancient trees whispered secrets to those who listened, and where the soft glow of fireflies lit up the night. As Elara wandered deeper into the forest, she came across a small, crystal-clear pond. The water shimmered under the moonlight, and the air was filled with the gentle rustling of leaves. Elara sat down by the pond, dipping her fingers into the cool, refreshing water. As she did, she noticed something unusual, a faint, melodic sound, like the chiming of tiny bells, coming from within the water. Curious, Elara leaned closer to the pond, and to her amazement, she saw a tiny, shimmering figure emerging from the water. It was a water sprite, a delicate creature with wings that glistened like the morning dew. The sprite smiled at Elara and spoke in a voice that was as soft as a whispering breeze. "Thank you for tending to the flowers, Elara," the sprite said. "They bring beauty and peace to our forest, and we are forever grateful. In return, I would like to offer you a gift, the gift of a peaceful heart and a restful sleep, whenever you may need it." Elara was touched by the sprite's words. She thanked the sprite and promised to continue caring for the flowers and the forest. The sprite then placed a small glowing crystal in Elara's hand. "Whenever you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders," the sprite explained, "hold this crystal close to your heart, and it will fill you with calm and serenity." With that, the sprite disappeared back into the pond, leaving Elara with a sense of peace she had never known before. She returned to her cottage that night, the crystal glowing softly in her hand, and as she lay in bed, she held it close to her heart. Instantly, she felt all her worries melt away, and she drifted off into a deep and restful sleep. From that night on, whenever Elara felt anxious or restless, she would hold the crystal close, and it would fill her with a gentle warmth, soothing her mind and calming her soul. And so, every night, as the stars twinkled above Tranquil Hollow, Elara would fall asleep with a smile on her face, knowing that she was safe, loved, and at peace. In a quiet corner of the world, where the days were warm and the nights were cool, there stood an ancient willow tree by the edge of a crystal-clear lake. This tree was known as the Whispering Willow, and it was said that its long, flowing branches could soothe the hearts of all who listened to its gentle rustling. Beneath the willow lived a young woman named Lyra. Lyra was a dreamer, often spending her days by the lake, listening to the songs of the birds and the whispers of the willow. She found peace in the natural world. But at night, her mind would often race, filled with worries and restless thoughts that kept her from sleep. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to twinkle in the sky, Lyra sat beneath the willow, her heart heavy with the weight of her thoughts. The wind picked up, and the branches of the willow began to dance, their leaves brushing against one another with a soft, melodic sound. "Why do you worry, dear Lyra?" the willow whispered, its voice as gentle as the breeze. "You are surrounded by beauty and peace. Let go of your worries and allow yourself to be present in this moment." Lyra closed her eyes and focused on the sound of the willow's voice. As she listened, she felt a sense of calm wash over her, as if the tree's whispers were unraveling the knots in her mind. The worries that had plagued her began to fade, replaced by a deep sense of serenity. That night, for the first time in many moons, Lyra slept soundly, cradled by the soothing whispers of the willow. From then on, whenever she felt troubled, she would return to the willow, and its gentle voice would remind her to let go, to trust in the peace that surrounded her. Deep within a lush green forest, there was a small village named Evergreen. The villagers lived simple, happy lives, surrounded by nature's beauty. But there was one thing that made Evergreen special: the enchanted lantern that hung in the village square. This lantern was no ordinary light. It was a gift from the forest spirits, bestowed upon the village many generations ago. The lantern's glow was warm and golden, and it never flickered, even on the darkest of nights. The villagers believed that as long as the lantern burned, their village would be safe from harm. One day, a young girl named Maya, who was known for her curious nature, decided to find out the secret behind the lantern's never-ending light. She had heard tales of the forest spirits, but had never seen one herself. Determined, she set off into the heart of the forest, where the ancient trees stood tall, and the air was filled with the scent of pine and earth. As she walked deeper into the woods, the daylight began to fade, and the shadows grew long. But just as the darkness began to close in, Maya saw a faint, glowing light ahead. She followed the light until she came upon a small clearing, where a beautiful, ethereal being stood, holding a lantern that shimmered with a soft, golden glow. The being smiled at Maya and said, "I am the guardian of the enchanted lantern. This light is a gift to your village, a symbol of hope and safety. As long as there is kindness and love in the hearts of the villagers, the lantern will never go out." Maya was awestruck by the guardian's words. She realized that the lantern's magic was not just in the light itself, but in the love and unity of the people it protected. She thanked the guardian and returned to Evergreen, her heart filled with warmth and a newfound appreciation for the light that had always guided her. That night, as Maya lay in bed, she thought of the lantern and the guardian's words. She knew that as long as she carried love and kindness in her heart, she would always be guided, even in the darkest of times. High above the clouds, in a realm beyond the reach of ordinary sight, there lived a being known as the Dream Weaver. The Dream Weaver's home was a palace of shimmering light, nestled among the stars, where she spent her days creating the most beautiful and peaceful dreams For those who slept on Earth, the dream weaver was a master of her craft. She would gather stardust and moonbeams, weaving them together with threads of light to create dreams that brought comfort, joy, and peace to all who received them. Each night, as the world below fell asleep, the dream weaver would release her creations, sending them gently down to earth on a soft breeze. One evening, as the dream weaver was preparing her nightly creations, she noticed a small, flickering light on earth. It was the light of a single candle in the window of a little cottage where a young boy named Leo sat unable to sleep. Leo had been having restless nights, his mind filled with worries that he couldn't seem to shake. The dream weaver decided that tonight she would create a special dream just for Leo. She carefully wove together the brightest stardust, the softest moonbeams, and the most soothing threads of light, crafting a dream that would ease his mind and fill his heart with peace. As Leo finally drifted off to sleep, the dream weaver sent her creation down to him. The dream wrapped around him like a warm blanket, and in it, Leo found himself floating among the stars, weightless and free. He danced among the constellations, his worries melting away with each step. The stars sang a lullaby just for him, their voices gentle and reassuring. When Leo woke the next morning, he felt refreshed and calm, his heart light and his mind at ease. He couldn't remember the details of his dream, but he knew that he had been somewhere magical, a place where he was safe and loved. In a quiet valley, far from the hustle and bustle of the world, there was a garden unlike any other. This was the Moonlit Garden, a place where flowers bloomed only under the soft light of the moon, and where the night was filled with the sweet scent of jasmine and lavender. The garden was cared for by an elderly woman named Maris, who had lived in the valley all her life. Maris knew the secrets of every flower and plant, and she had a special connection with the moon. Each night, as the moon rose high in the sky, Maris would walk through her garden, her heart filled with peace and contentment. One evening, as Maris tended to the flowers, she noticed a young deer lying at the edge of the garden, its body tense with fear. The deer had strayed too far from the safety of the forest and had become frightened by the unfamiliar surroundings. Maris approached the deer slowly, her voice soft and soothing. There, little one," she whispered. "You are safe here. This garden is a place of peace, where no harm will come to you." As Maris spoke, the moon cast its gentle light over the garden, and the flowers began to glow softly, their colors shimmering in the night. The deer, sensing the calmness of the place, slowly relaxed and laid its head down on the soft grass. Maris sat beside the deer, her heart filled with love for the gentle creature. She began to hum a quiet lullaby, a tune she had known since childhood, and as she did, the entire garden seemed to join in. The flowers swayed in rhythm, and the night breeze carried the melody through the valley. The deer, comforted by the song and the peacefulness of the garden, soon drifted off to sleep. Maris watched over it, knowing that the moonlit garden had once again brought comfort to a weary soul. And so, dear listener, as you rest tonight, imagine yourself in the moonlit garden, surrounded by the soft glow of moonlight and the sweet scent of flowers. Let the peacefulness of this place fill your heart and drift off to sleep, knowing that you are safe and loved. Nestled between tall, ancient trees, there was a stream that flowed gently through the heart of a tranquil forest. The stream was known to the villagers as the Whispering Waters, for it was said that the water spoke in a soothing voice, calming the hearts of all who listened. One summer afternoon, a young girl named Elara ventured into the forest, seeking solace from the worries that had been troubling her. She had heard stories of the Whispering Waters, and she hoped that the stream might bring her the peace she so desperately needed. As Elara walked deeper into the forest, the air grew cooler, and the sounds of the outside world faded away, replaced by the soft rustling of leaves and the gentle murmur of the stream. When she finally reached the water's edge, she knelt down and dipped her hands into the cool, clear water. The moment her fingers touched the stream, Elara felt a wave of calm wash over her. The water seemed to hum softly, as if speaking directly to her heart, telling her that everything would be all right. She closed her eyes and listened, allowing the sound of the stream to soothe her mind and ease her worries. For what felt like hours, Elara sat by the stream, the water's gentle voice lulling her into a state of deep relaxation. The forest around her was alive with the sounds of nature, the chirping of crickets, the distant call of an owl, and the soft breeze that whispered through the trees. But above all, it was the stream's voice that filled her with peace. When Elara finally opened her eyes, she felt renewed, her worries having melted away like morning mist. She knew that she could return to the Whispering Waters whenever she needed to find her calm, and that the stream would always be there to guide her. And so, dear listener, as you rest tonight, imagine yourself by the side of the Whispering Waters. Let the gentle sound of the stream flow through you, washing away your worries and bringing you to a place of deep, restful sleep. Once upon a time, in a land where the night was always clear and the stars shone brightly, there was a path that wound its way through a peaceful meadow. This was the Starlit path, a trail known only to those who sought quiet moments of reflection under the night skies. The path was said to be a gift from the stars themselves, a way to connect with the beauty and mystery of the universe. It was a place where one could walk in solitude, the soft glow of starlight illuminating the way, and where the troubles of the world seemed to melt away. One night, a young man named Orion decided to walk the Starlit path. He had heard of its beauty, but had never experienced it for himself. As he set out, the sky above him was a canvas of twinkling stars, each one shining with a light that felt both ancient and eternal. As Orion walked, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. The path was soft beneath his feet, and the air was cool and refreshing. The stars seemed to whisper to him, their voices filled with wisdom and serenity. With each step, he felt his heart grow lighter, as if the stars were gently lifting his burdens. The path led Orion to a hilltop where he could see the entire night sky stretched out before him. He sat down on the soft grass and looked up, marveling at the endless expanse of stars. In that moment, he felt a deep connection to the universe, a sense of belonging that filled him with peace. Orion knew that the Starlit path would always be there for him, a place where he could find solace whenever he needed it. As he made his way back home, he carried the light of the stars in his heart, knowing that he was never truly alone. In a hidden valley, surrounded by rolling hills and ancient trees, there was a meadow unlike any other. This was the Meadow of Dreams, a place where the grass was as soft as silk, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of wildflowers. It was said that anyone who lay down in this meadow would find themselves wrapped in the most beautiful dreams, their minds at peace, and their hearts at rest. One summer's evening, a young woman named Nia, who had been struggling with sleepless nights, decided to visit the Meadow of Dreams. She had heard tales of its magic and hoped that it would help her find the rest she so desperately needed. As Nia entered the meadow, she was greeted by the sight of golden sunlight filtering through the trees, casting a warm, gentle glow over the landscape. The wildflowers swayed in the breeze, their colors vibrant and their petals soft. Nia found a spot near a small stream that flowed quietly through the meadow. Its water clear and cool, she lay down on the grass, feeling its softness beneath her, and closed her eyes. The gentle hum of nature surrounded her, the chirping of crickets, the rustling of leaves, and the distant call of a nightingale. As she relaxed, she felt the magic of the meadow begin to work. Nia's thoughts, which had been racing just moments before, began to slow down. Her worries melted away, replaced by a sense of calm and contentment. She felt as if the meadow itself was cradling her, lulling her into a deep, restful sleep. And as she drifted off, she was filled with the most beautiful dreams. Dreams of peace, joy, and love. When Nia awoke the next morning, she felt refreshed and renewed, her heart light and her mind at ease. She knew that the Meadow of Dreams would always be there for her, a place of peace where she could find rest whenever she needed it. In a distant land, there was a forest known as the Silent Forest, a place where time seemed to stand still, and the only sound was the soft rustling of leaves. The forest was a sanctuary for those who sought peace and solitude, a place where they could escape the noise of the world and find clarity within themselves. One autumn evening, a young man named Elias, burdened by the weight of his thoughts, decided to enter the silent forest. He had heard stories of its tranquility and hoped that the stillness of the woods would help him find the answers he was searching for. As Elias stepped into the forest, he was immediately struck by the quiet. The trees stood tall and still, their branches heavy with golden leaves that glimmered in the fading light. The air was cool and crisp, carrying with it the scent of pine and earth. Elias walked slowly, his footsteps muffled by the soft carpet of fallen leaves. The deeper he went into the forest, the more he felt a sense of calm washing over him. The silence was not empty, it was full of presence, a living, breathing stillness that enveloped him like a warm blanket. Elias found a small clearing surrounded by ancient trees, their trunks thick and their roots deep. He sat down on a moss-covered rock, closed his eyes, and listened to the silence. In the quiet, Elias found the space to reflect. The worries that had been clouding his mind began to clear, and he felt a deep connection to the world around him. The forest, in its stillness, offered him a sense of clarity and peace. He realized that sometimes the answers we seek are found not in the noise, but in the quiet moments of reflection. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Elias felt a deep sense of gratitude for the silent forest. He knew that he could return here whenever he needed to find peace, and that the stillness of the forest would always be there to guide him. In a land far beyond the reach of ordinary travelers, there flowed a river unlike any other. This was the River of Time, a mystical waterway that wound its way through valleys and forests, its currents carrying the past, present, and future in a gentle, endless flow. The river was known to be a place of deep reflection, where those who journeyed along its banks could find peace and wisdom. One day, a woman named Celine, who had long been troubled by the passage of time, decided to visit the River of Time. She had heard tales of its calming waters and hoped that the river might help her come to terms with the changes in her life. As Celine arrived at the riverbank, she was greeted by the sight of water that shimmered like liquid silver, reflecting the sky above in a perfect mirror. The sound of the river was soft and soothing, a constant, gentle murmur that seemed to speak to her heart. Celine sat down on a smooth stone by the water's edge, watching as the currents flowed by, carrying with them leaves and petals from the trees that lined the banks. As she sat there, Celine began to reflect on her life, the moments of joy, the challenges, the dreams she had nurtured, and those she had let go. The river, with its steady flow, seemed to tell her that time was not something to be feared or resisted, but embraced. It was a river that carried both the sorrows and the joys of life, blending them together into a harmonious whole. The more Celine watched the river, the more she felt her anxieties begin to ease. The current, steady and unyielding, reminded her that life was a journey, and that each moment, whether happy or sad, was part of the greater flow of time. She realized that she could trust the river, and in doing so, trust the path of her own life. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the water, Celine felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that whenever she felt lost or overwhelmed, she could return to the River of Time, and it would remind her of the beauty and balance that flowed through every aspect of life. And so, dear listener, as you drift off to sleep tonight, imagine yourself by the River of Time. Let its gentle current carry away your worries, and may you find peace in the flow of life. Good night, and may the River of Time guide you to dreams of calm and harmony.